Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something a little different. We're going to be talking about rooftops, but not just any rooftops.
Right, not your typical rooftops. We're diving into the world of green roofs.
Yeah, those rooftops covered in vegetation. Like, think actual gardens and even small farms way up high.
Yeah.
We've got a ton of research lined up for this.
You really dug deep into this one. Tons of studies, reports from city planners all over the world. It's a real global movement, it seems.
Absolutely. And the goal here is to, really get a grasp on what makes green roofs so beneficial, what's driving their adoption, and just really see how cities are, well, weaving nature into the urban landscape.
That's the fascinating part. It's like we're rethinking the very fabric of our cities.
Right. So, first things first, what are the advantages of these green roofs? The list is actually pretty impressive.
It is. Energy cost savings is a big one.
Yeah, that's something everyone can get behind. I mean, plants acting as natural insulation. How much can they actually save, though?
Well, a good amount, actually. Studies have found that a green roof can reduce the heat entering a building during the summer and the heat escaping in the winter.
Makes sense. Keeps things more stable.
Right. And depending on the climate, the type of green roof you're talking about, you can see energy savings for heating and cooling anywhere from like 10 to even 20%.
Wow, that's pretty significant.
It is. And don't forget about the reduction in carbon footprint that comes along with that lower energy consumption. It's a win-win.
For sure, a tangible environmental win. Okay, what about flooding? With all these crazy storms lately, how do green roofs help with that? You mentioned something about them acting like sponges earlier.
Yeah, they really do act as natural sponges, absorbing and retaining rainwater. A typical extensive green roof, the kind with a shallower soil layer, can retain up to 50 to 90% of rainwater during those smaller storms.
Wow.
And even during those larger downpours, they can still retain a decent amount, like 25 to 50%. This trapped water is then released gradually so it doesn't overwhelm our drainage systems.
So they're actually helping to slow down that rush of water we see during storms.
Exactly. It's like having a natural buffer built right into the city.
Brilliant. Now, something that I found super interesting was this idea of rooftop gardens as havens for wildlife.
Yeah, it seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? Like a haven in the middle of a concrete jungle.
Exactly. But they do provide food sources, nesting sites, all that for, birds, bees, all sorts of insects.
Yeah, it's all about increasing that urban biodiversity, even in small ways. And they tackle air pollution, too.
Right, which is crazy to think about. They're up on rooftops filtering the air we breathe. How does that even work?
The plants themselves act like natural filters, trapping all that dust and absorbing pollutants from the air. Nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, all that nasty stuff.
So it's like having a giant air purifier right above our heads.
Precisely. And then there's the urban food production angle, which is really taking off.
Right, like rooftop gardens that actually grow food. You see more and more of those these days.
Yeah, from vegetable gardens to fruit trees. Toronto's a great example. They've been encouraging rooftop farms since the 90s.
Wow, since the 90s, that's a long time.
Yeah, they've been ahead of the curve on this one. It's about providing fresh, locally grown food, reducing those food miles, the distance food has to travel.
Right, which makes a huge difference, especially when you think about developing cities where space for traditional farming is limited.
Exactly. It's about finding creative solutions to make our cities more self-sufficient.
Now, one thing that really came through in the research is that making all this happen requires a real team effort.
Oh, absolutely. It's not something that can be achieved in isolation. You need buy-in from city authorities, businesses, research institutions. Everyone needs to be on board.
Right, it takes collaboration on all levels. The London plan was mentioned as a really good example of how policy can really drive change.
It's a perfect example. By setting targets and providing guidelines for green roofs, it created a framework that encouraged developers and building owners to incorporate them into their projects. And the results have been impressive. London now has millions of square meters of green roofs.
It's incredible what can happen when you have strong policy backing.
Right.
And it's not just about green roofs working in isolation. They can be integrated with other green building elements, like those living walls we've seen popping up.
Yeah, those walls covered in vegetation. The synergy between the two is remarkable. By combining them, you essentially create a network of green infrastructure.
Right. It's all connected, amplifying those benefits. Better air quality, better water management, more biodiversity.
Exactly. And when you add things like permeable pavements at street level and strategically planted trees, You create a really comprehensive and interconnected system.
It's like weaving nature into the very fabric of our cities.
It is. And that interconnectedness is key for creating a more resilient urban environment.
Now, beyond the environmental and the economic benefits, the social aspect of green roofs and green spaces in general can't be overlooked.
You're absolutely right. There's a growing body of evidence that shows the positive impact of nature on both our mental and physical health.
Yeah, it's not just about aesthetics, it's about well-being.
Exactly. For instance, there's research looking into how gardening can be therapeutic for people struggling with anxiety and depression.
That's fascinating. It's like literally growing your way to better mental health.
And it goes beyond that. Just having access to green spaces, even small ones, can really improve the quality of life for people with dementia. And it can help combat obesity by encouraging physical activity.
It's about making nature accessible to everyone, no matter where they live.
Exactly. Bringing those restorative benefits of nature right into the heart of our cities.
Now, North America seems to be leading the way when it comes to making green roofs more mainstream. What's driving that adoption over there?
Well, a couple things. Firstly, there's been a really proactive approach from city authorities in some places. San Francisco, for example, actually has a policy that mandates green roofs on new buildings.
Wow, that's a bold move.
It is. And then you have places like Toronto, which we mentioned earlier, with their long-standing support for rooftop farms.
Right, encouraging it rather than mandating it.
Exactly. And then there's the fact that newer buildings in North America often have the structural capacity to support green roofs more easily.
Right, because those roofs are often designed to handle more weight.
Exactly. So you don't necessarily have to do a lot of expensive retrofitting to add a green roof. That makes a huge difference for developers.
It streamlines the process and keeps costs down. And that stronger infrastructure also means you can have those deeper soil profiles for better water management.
Absolutely. That's particularly important for those rooftop farms where you need consistent watering for crops to thrive. And deeper soil means a greater variety of plants, which means more biodiversity.
So it's a win-win situation all around. But even with all these advantages and the support in some regions, there are still some hurdles to overcome for widespread adoption.
That's true. One of the biggest barriers is often the initial cost of installation. It can be a significant investment, especially for larger roofs.
Right, and that can be a deterrent for some building owners.
Absolutely. So what we need is more financial support in the form of incentives and subsidies from both the public and private sectors. We also need to think about the new skills that will be required for maintaining these green roofs.
Right, you're talking about things like landscaping knowledge, which isn't something that all building managers currently have.
Exactly. There's potential for community involvement too, maybe through volunteer programs to help maintain these green spaces.
That's a great idea, getting the community involved.
It is. And then, of course, there are those practical considerations, drainage, safety regulations, planning restrictions, all that needs to be factored in.
Right. Plus, the potential for disruption during installation. That can be a concern for businesses.
Absolutely. All valid points. And that's why it's crucial to make a strong economic case for green roofs. This is where the concept of natural capital comes in.
Natural capital, that's an interesting term.
It is. It's essentially about assigning a monetary value to the services that nature provides us. Things like flood protection, air purification, climate change mitigation.
So, putting a price tag on the benefits of nature.
Exactly. And by quantifying those benefits, we can demonstrate that investing in green infrastructure like roofs actually makes financial sense.
So it's not just an environmental good, it's an economic good as well.
Right. And as our understanding of green roofs evolves, so too does the technology and the standardization around them. We're seeing the development of official standards for design, construction, and maintenance.
That's a big step. It means things are becoming more professionalized.
It does. It helps build confidence in the industry and makes it easier for people to adopt green roofs. And there's some fascinating innovations emerging too.
Oh yeah, like those blue roofs we read about. Can you explain those?
Yeah, they're designed to hold rainwater temporarily, kind of like a giant rooftop reservoir. It's really helpful in areas with heavy rainfall because it helps control that stormwater runoff and reduces the risk of flooding.
So it's like a built-in flood prevention system.
Pretty much. And we're also seeing more integrated systems that combine green roofs with solar panels.
That's a smart use of space, getting double the benefits from your rooftop.
Exactly. And then there are brown roofs, which are really focused on biodiversity.
Yeah, those ones were interesting.
Yeah, they differ from traditional green roofs in that they're designed to mimic natural, undisturbed environments. They use locally sourced materials and allow for spontaneous vegetation.
So it's more about letting nature take its course.
Right. And that attracts a wider range of native plants and animals, boosting biodiversity.
It's amazing how much thought goes into designing these different types of green roofs. And thinking ahead, it seems like the growth of this sector could have some wider economic and social ripple effects.
Oh, definitely. A thriving green roof industry means new jobs in design, installation, maintenance, even in supplying specialized materials. And as urban rooftop farming expands, it can strengthen local food systems and create a more resilient food economy.
So many potential benefits. It's quite inspiring. While there are definitely challenges to overcome, it seems like the future of green roofs is pretty bright.
I agree. By learning from successful projects around the world and sharing best practices, we can really accelerate their adoption globally.
And ultimately create healthier, more sustainable cities.
Exactly. It's about thinking beyond just the individual building and considering the bigger picture.
So to wrap things up for those listening, the key takeaways are that green roofs offer a whole host of benefits: environmental, economic, and social. They can cut energy use, manage stormwater, enhance biodiversity, create jobs, even produce food. But to really unlock their potential, we need collaboration across all sectors, research and innovation, and policies that support their implementation.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's a call to action.
It is. So here's something to consider as you go about your day. Take a look around your own neighborhood. What surfaces, maybe not just rooftops, could be transformed into green spaces? What impact could that have on your community? It might be a small change, but remember, those small changes can add up to something much bigger. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
Thanks for having me. It's been a great discussion.